You know what your brain focuses on when everything's falling apart? For me, it was the broken thermostat in Timothy Morrison's HR office. That plastic piece of junk hadn't worked since Obama was in office, but there it was, clicking away like it had something important to contribute to my career assassination. I'm Christopher Whitman, 47 years old, and I'd been with Atlantic Infrastructure Group for 18 years. 18 years of making sure our municipal contracts didn't blow up in our faces. 18 years of keeping the dit Hoyt happy. 18 years of turning construction chaos into clean quarterly reports that investors could actually understand. The Navy Corps of Engineers had taught me the basics of infrastructure work, but it was those 18 years at Atlantic that turned me into someone who could translate bridge repairs and highway expansions into language that Wall Street understood. I knew every contractor in 3 states, every municipal official who mattered, and exactly which projects were gold mines and which ones were money pits waiting to swallow entire quarterly budgets. Effective immediately, Timothy said, sliding that envelope across his desk like he was serving me divorce papers. The guy couldn't even look me in the eye. 18 years, and this was how it ended. I didn't open the envelope, didn't need to. I knew our severance policy better than Timothy knew his own coffee order. Hell, I'd helped write parts of it back when we went public in 2018. Andrew's request, he added. Like that wasn't obvious. Andrew Patterson, our CFO, the same guy who used to call me his secret weapon. When we needed to explain why the I-95 extension project went 30% over budget, or why environmental assessments took twice as long as projected. Now, I was getting tossed out like yesterday's newspaper, and Timothy was sitting there with that fake concerned expression they probably teach in HR certification programs. The kind of look you give someone when you're about to screw them over, but want to feel good about yourself afterward. We appreciate your years of service, Christopher. This restructuring decision wasn't made lightly. Restructuring, right. That's corporate speak for we're throwing you under the bus because you know where the bodies are buried, and we need someone who doesn't ask awkward questions. I'd seen this coming for weeks. Ever since Andrew started bringing in outside consultants to review our processes and optimize our reporting structures. Translation. Find a way to make the numbers look prettier without actually fixing the underlying problems. When you've got $31.2 million in unaccounted project overruns, you need either an explanation or a scapegoat. Apparently, they'd chosen the scapegoat option. The thing is, I'd been trying to protect Andrew for months. Every time a project went sideways, every time a contractor disappeared with advance payments, every time we had to explain to the Virginia DOT why their highway project was behind schedule and over budget, I found ways to make it look like strategic planning instead of gross incompetence. But Andrew wanted more than damage control, he wanted magic. He wanted me to make $20.2 million in phantom consulting fees disappear from the quarterly report like they'd never existed. When I told him that wasn't how accounting worked, that investors and regulators would notice eventually, he started talking about fresh perspectives and new approaches to stakeholder communication. Fresh perspectives. From a guy who thought municipal bond structuring was something you learned from YouTube videos. Then came the line that sealed Andrew's fate, though he didn't know it yet. Timothy leaned forward with that practiced sincerity and said, "We'll control the narrative moving forward." That's when I knew they had no clue what I actually did around here. They thought managing investor relations was just PowerPoint slides and fancy charts. They thought financial reporting was about finding the right words to make bad news sound good. They had no idea that I'd spent 18 years building relationships with every institutional investor who mattered, learning their concerns, understanding their risk tolerances, and most importantly, never ever lying to them. The institutional investors trusted Atlantic Infrastructure Group because they trusted me. When Goldman Sachs had questions about our municipal contract pipeline, they called me directly. When Fidelity wanted to understand the regulatory environment for infrastructure spending, I was the guy who walked them through the DOT approval process. When Aberdeen Global got nervous about project delays, I was the one who explained the difference between weather-related setbacks and fundamental project management failures. But Andrew and Timothy thought they could just replace me with some fresh MBA who looked good in video calls and knew how to make slides with lots of colorful charts. They thought controlling the narrative meant finding someone who would spin fairy tales instead of reporting facts. Instead, I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to make Timothy shift uncomfortably in his chair. "Well," I said, standing up, "I'm sure you'll figure it out. Walking out of Timothy's office felt like walking through a funeral home where I was both the corpse and the only one who knew the real cause of death. The main floor buzzed with its usual activity, but something was different. Word had already gotten around. These things always did in an office this size. My co-workers suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. Stephen Brooks from accounting gave me one of those pity looks you'd give roadkill, then immediately pretended to be very interested in his quarterly budget reconciliation spreadsheet. Sarah Martinez from project management actually ducked into the supply closet when she saw me coming down the hallway. The only person who had the guts to look me in the eye was Daniel Foster, the intern from Virginia Tech who'd been working with me on compliance reporting. Kid was maybe 23, fresh out of engineering school, still believed that competence mattered more than politics. "Mr. Whitman," he said, standing up from his cube. "I just wanted to say, don't," I told him. "Whatever you're thinking about saying, don't. You've got a good future here if you keep your head down and learn to speak the language they want to hear." Daniel looked like he wanted to argue, but he was smart enough to know when to keep his mouth shut. Good kid. Maybe he'd survive the corporate reorganization that was coming, because make no mistake, heads were going to roll once the real quarterly numbers came out. Andrew might think he'd solved his problem by getting rid of me, but he'd actually just eliminated the one person who knew how to make his disasters look like strategic decisions. I didn't pack everything from my office. Just grabbed my Navy coffee mug, the one with the chip that looked like the Chesapeake Bay, and the photo from last year's company picnic where Andrew had his arm around my shoulder, both of us grinning like we'd just landed the Richmond Highway contract. Which we had. That was back when Andrew still listened to my advice, before the consultant started whispering in his ear about modernizing our approach and embracing innovative financial structures. What I left behind was more important than what I took. In my bottom desk drawer, locked with a key they'd forgotten to ask for, sat a black folder marked Q3 Financial Analysis, Confidential. Inside was the real quarterly report, the one I'd finished 2 days before my termination. The one with actual numbers, not the creative writing exercise Andrew wanted to present to investors. This wasn't some vindictive insurance policy I'd created after getting fired. This was just good business practice, something the Corps of Engineers had drilled into me. Always maintain accurate records, always have backup documentation, and never trust anyone else to tell the complete story. In construction, bad numbers get people killed. In corporate finance, they just get companies investigated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The real report told a different story than the sanitized version Andrew was planning to release. It showed $31 and $41 next 1340 such in Pestrin Development Consulting LLC, a company that had no website, no listed employees, no physical address, and apparently no services beyond cashing checks and disappearing money into offshore accounts that even our forensic accountants couldn't trace. It documented environmental impact assessments that were paid for but never completed, compliance reports that existed only as line items on invoices, and safety inspections that somehow cost twice the industry standard while producing half the required documentation. Every payment was properly authorized. Every invoice was correctly processed, and every single dollar led to the same dead end. Companies that existed only on paper and contracts that were about as legitimate as a $3 bill. I'd spent 3 months trying to unravel the mess, calling contractors who'd never heard of the projects they were supposedly working on, chasing down municipal officials who had no record of the environmental studies they'd allegedly approved. The more I dug, the more it became clear that Andrew wasn't just incompetent. He was running some kind of shell game with company funds, probably trying to inflate quarterly revenues while hiding the fact that half our major projects were behind schedule and bleeding money. When I brought my findings to Andrew in July, he'd gone pale and started talking about interim reporting strategies and flexible interpretation of preliminary data. When I told him we needed to disclose the irregularities to the board, and probably the SEC, he started discussing staffing adjustments and fresh perspectives on stakeholder communication. Now I understood what those euphemisms meant. They meant finding someone stupid enough or desperate enough to sign their name to financial reports that would make Enron's accountants blush. I left that folder right where it was, locked in my desk drawer like a time bomb with a very specific timer. Let them think they had everything under control. Let them assume they'd already secured all the evidence. The corporate world runs on assumptions, and Andrew was about to learn that some assumptions can kill you. Here's something they don't teach you in business school. When you fire the guy who's been protecting you from your own incompetence, You better make sure he doesn't still have the keys to the kingdom, because Atlantic Infrastructure Group's investor relations system wasn't just software you could buy off the shelf. It was a custom platform I'd designed and built over 8 years, integrated with everything from our project management databases to our DOT compliance tracking systems. Every report, every investor communication, every quarterly filing went through systems I'd created. The automated distribution lists, the scheduling protocols, the backup procedures, I'd built all of it because the commercial alternatives couldn't handle the complexity of infrastructure project financing. When you're dealing with municipal bonds, federal highway funds, state environmental regulations, and private investor requirements all at the same time, you need systems that can translate between different reporting standards and regulatory frameworks. More importantly, those systems still recognized me as the primary administrator. In all the excitement of getting me out the door, nobody had thought to revoke my access credentials. The same bureaucratic inefficiency that made it take 3 weeks to get approval for office supplies meant that IT security updates moved at the speed of continental drift. I could have told them about the oversight, probably should have mentioned it to Timothy before I left. But Andrew had made it clear that he wanted to control the narrative, and I was curious to see how well he'd manage that without knowing all the relevant facts. By the time I hit the parking lot, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is hot and messy and makes you do stupid things that you regret later. What I was feeling was something much colder and more focused. Professional curiosity about how this was all going to play out. They'd hired some kid named Jonathan Hayes to replace me, fresh MBA from Virginia Tech. Probably cost them half my salary and had twice as much enthusiasm for innovative approaches to investor communication. Poor Jonathan had already started posting on LinkedIn about his exciting new opportunity, complete with corporate buzzword bingo cards and motivational quotes about embracing change. The kid had no idea what he was walking into. Andrew probably sold him some story about modernizing our reporting processes and leveraging technology to enhance stakeholder engagement. What Andrew didn't tell him was that our stakeholder engagement involved explaining to very smart, very rich, very impatient people why their investments were disappearing into construction projects that existed mainly in PowerPoint presentations. My house was quiet that evening, except for the neighbor's leaf blower attacking his driveway like it owed him money. I poured a beer, opened my laptop, and logged into the Atlantic Infrastructure Investor Relations portal from my kitchen table. Half expected to see an access denied screen flashing red warnings about unauthorized users. But nope. There was my dashboard, clean and familiar, my administrative privileges intact like nothing had happened. These are the same people who made us sit through quarterly cybersecurity briefings about the importance of access control and data protection. The same executives who bragged to the board about our state-of-the-art security protocols and multi-layered authentication systems. But apparently, nobody thought to coordinate between HR and IT when they decided to eliminate the guy who'd built half their systems. I navigated to the quarterly reports section and found Andrew's masterpiece waiting in the approval queue. Q3 Financial Summary, Final Draft 7.3. The file name alone told me everything I needed to know. 7 revisions meant Andrew had been trying to find different ways to make the same ugly numbers look presentable. Like putting lipstick on a pig, if the pig was also on fire and filled with toxic waste. I opened his version first, just to see how creative he'd gotten. Revenue streams remain robust, despite challenging market conditions. Operating expenses reflect strategic investments in emerging infrastructure opportunities. Consultant partnerships continue to deliver value-added services aligned with our long-term growth objectives. It was beautiful, in the way that professional doublespeak can be beautiful. Andrew had managed to turn $2 million in missing money into strategic consultant partnerships and value-added services. He'd transformed project delays and cost overruns into market-responsive timeline adjustments and resource optimization initiatives. The man had a gift for making disasters sound like strategic victories. But here's the thing about institutional investors. They didn't get rich by falling for pretty words and creative accounting. These are people who read footnotes for fun and can spot financial sleight of hand from 3 time zones away. Goldman Sachs employs analysts whose entire job is finding the lies hidden in quarterly reports. Fidelity has computers that can cross-reference every line item against industry standards and flag discrepancies faster than Andrew could spell synergy. What Andrew was planning to send them wasn't just misleading, it was insulting. He was essentially telling some of the smartest money managers in the world that they were too stupid to notice when $31.2 million disappeared without explanation. I closed Andrew's fiction and pulled up my backup files. Version 4.7 for real, though I could have called it radioactive for all the damage it was going to cause. The numbers were ugly, but they were honest. Every dollar accounted for, every discrepancy documented, every question answered, even when the answers made you want to reach for something stronger than beer. Project overruns on the I-95 extension. $8.3 million over budget due to soil conditions that weren't properly surveyed, because the geological assessment contract went to Andrew's brother-in-law's consulting firm, which apparently consisted of 2 guys with a pickup truck and a Google Maps subscription. Environmental impact studies for the Richmond bypass. $4.7 million paid to Southeastern Development Consulting for reports that were supposed to be filed with the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, but somehow never made it past the preliminary assessment stage. DQ had no record of receiving anything, and Southeastern Development's registered address turned out to be a UPS store in Delaware. Safety compliance documentation for the Norfolk port expansion. $12.1 million in consulting fees for OSHA certification processes that should have cost maybe $200,000 and taken 6 weeks. Instead, we'd been paying monthly retainer fees to something called Mid-Atlantic Safety Solutions for the past 14 months, and the only thing they delivered was a stack of photocopied forms that looked like they'd been downloaded from the Department of Labor website. The pattern was consistent across every major project. Legitimate expenses inflated beyond recognition. Phantom services that existed only on invoices, and consulting contracts that seemed designed to move money out of Atlantic infrastructure and into accounts that nobody could trace. I'd spent weeks trying to give Andrew the benefit of the doubt, looking for explanations that didn't involve fraud or gross incompetence. Maybe there were legitimate reasons for paying $200,000 for environmental assessments that other companies got done for $40,000. Maybe there was some regulatory requirement I didn't understand that justified spending $500,000 on safety documentation that looked like it had been assembled by a first-year paralegal having a bad day. But every explanation led to the same place. Someone was stealing money, and Andrew either knew about it or was too incompetent to notice. Either way, he had no business running the financial operations of a company that handled $280 million in annual revenue and employed 340 people whose livelihoods depended on honest reporting and competent management. The investor call was scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp, same as always. Andrew would dial in from his corner office, probably wearing his lucky tie and practicing his opening remarks about sustainable growth in challenging market conditions. Jonathan Hayes would be there too, eager to make a good impression on his first major investor call, ready to field questions about innovative reporting approaches and enhanced stakeholder communication strategies. What they didn't know was that every institutional investor on that call would already have the real numbers sitting in their inbox. Not Andrew's creative writing exercise, but 47 pages of documented financial reality that would make their risk management departments reach for the panic button. I set the distribution timer for 8:59 a.m. 1 minute before Andrew started his performance, 1 minute before Jonathan realized what he'd gotten himself into. 1 minute before 73 institutional investors discovered that Atlantic Infrastructure Group had been treating their money like a personal piggy bank. The system accepted my scheduling request without complaint. Distribution scheduled minus 73 recipients. Delivery time 8:59 a.m. EST. Just like that. No warnings, no confirmation requests. No, are you sure you want to end several careers pop-up windows? I closed the laptop and finished my beer. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. I woke up before my alarm the next morning. Didn't need it anyway. My body knew what day it was. Investor call mornings always had a certain energy, like the air before a thunderstorm, but this one was different. No suit and tie, no drive through rush hour traffic to get to the office by 7:30 for pre-call preparation. Just me in my kitchen, drinking coffee and waiting for Andrew's world to implode. I logged into the system at 8:45 a.m., partly to make sure everything was still working, and partly because I wanted to watch the automated report deploy in real time. The distribution list showed 73 institutional recipients. Everything from major investment banks to state pension funds to that cranky hedge fund in Boston that specialized in infrastructure investments and asking uncomfortable questions during earnings calls. At exactly 8:59 a.m., the system sent a cheerful notification. Quarterly report distribution, complete minus 73 recipients, no delivery failures. Somewhere across the country, email servers were delivering 47 pages of financial reality to people whose job was finding problems with quarterly reports and asking pointed questions about them. I imagined the first few recipients opening their morning email, expecting Andrew's usual corporate doublespeak about challenging market conditions and strategic growth initiatives. Instead, they were getting line-by-line documentation of how $31 and $2 million had vanished into consulting contracts that led nowhere and services that existed only on invoices. The investor call participant list started populating at 8:55 a.m., all the usual suspects, representatives from Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, BlackRock, the Virginia Retirement System, plus a few names I didn't recognize. Probably short sellers who'd heard rumors and wanted front row seats to watch a company's stock price crater in real time. At 9 a.m. sharp, the call began. Usually these things opened with Andrew's practiced routine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm pleased to report another solid quarter for Atlantic Infrastructure Group. Then he'd launch into his prepared remarks about revenue growth and operational efficiency while I sat in the conference room next to him, ready to field technical questions about specific projects or regulatory issues. Today was different. Dead silence. You could practically hear people refreshing their email, cross-referencing the numbers they'd just received with previous quarterly reports, probably running calculations on spreadsheets and wondering if someone had made a massive data entry error. 3 minutes passed without a word from Andrew. The silence stretched so long that people started clearing their throats and adjusting their microphones, the audio equivalent of nervous fidgeting. Finally, one of the senior analysts from Bridgewater Associates spoke up. Good morning. Will we be hearing opening remarks from management, or should we proceed directly to questions? Another voice chimed in, this one with a British accent, probably from the London office of one of the international banks. We've reviewed this morning's distribution. Several line items require immediate clarification. When might we expect detailed explanations? Still nothing from Andrew. I could see his name on the participant list, but his microphone remained muted and his video was disabled. The guy who usually dominated these calls with 20-minute monologues about synergistic growth opportunities was apparently struck speechless by the prospect of explaining where $31 to $2 million had gone. Catherine Wells from our investor relations team tried to buy time. Thank you everyone for joining today's call. We're experiencing some minor technical difficulties with Mr. Patterson's connection. We should have him online momentarily. Liar Andrew was connected just fine. He was staring at the same numbers everyone else was seeing, probably wondering how his carefully sanitized quarterly report had been replaced by 47 pages of financial documentation that read like a Securities and Exchange Commission investigation report. More silence. Someone coughed. Papers rustled. The participant count kept climbing. 87, then 94, then over 100% as word spread through the investment community that Atlantic Infrastructure Group was having some kind of public meltdown during their earnings call. Then Matthew Sterling's voice cut through the silence like a blade through silk. The chairman of our board didn't waste time with pleasantries or technical difficulties. Can someone please explain why this morning's quarterly report documents $20 million in unsubstantiated consulting expenses across multiple projects? The silence that followed lasted exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds. I know because I was counting, sipping coffee, and watching the participant list grow as more investors joined to witness what was rapidly becoming the most entertaining earnings call in Atlantic Infrastructure's corporate history. You could almost hear the realization spreading through the call like ripples in a pond. This wasn't a technical glitch or some intern's mistake. This was real, published, permanent. They'd distributed the wrong report, except it wasn't wrong, it was just true. Andrew finally unmuted himself at the 2:18 mark. His voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. Yes, thank you, Chairman Sterling. Those particular line items refer to strategic consulting initiatives and developmental partnerships associated with our infrastructure modernization programs and regulatory compliance enhancement projects. Even he didn't believe what he was saying. You could hear it in the way he stumbled over his own buzzwords, stringing together corporate euphemisms like a man building a parachute out of tissue paper while falling from an airplane. The investors pounced. Which specific consultants? Snapped someone from J.P. Morgan. Were these expenses disclosed in previous quarterly guidance? Demanded a voice from CalPERS. Why do these contracts lack standard documentation requirements? Asked a representative from a Texas pension fund that managed $40 billion in assets and had zero tolerance for financial irregularities. Andrew tried to dance around the questions, but every answer just made things worse. He started reading from what sounded like a prepared script, probably the same sanitized talking points he'd planned to use before reality crashed his presentation. The stock price told the real story, down 6% in the first 15 minutes of the call. By the 30-minute mark, it was down 11.3% and falling. Trading volume was 3 times normal as institutional investors started dumping their positions faster than Andrew could explain why environmental assessments cost $200,000 each. Then Nicholas Blackstone's voice brought everything to a halt. This is Nicholas Blackstone, representing institutional clients holding approximately 18.7% of outstanding shares. We'll be taking this discussion offline immediately. Those 11 words ended Andrew Patterson's career at Atlantic Infrastructure Group. Not a suggestion, not a request, a corporate death sentence delivered with the calm precision of someone who controlled enough votes to fire the entire executive team before lunch. The call ended abruptly. No closing remarks, no thank you for your continued confidence in Atlantic Infrastructure Group. Just dead air where a company's credibility used to be. I refreshed the stock ticker. Trading halted. Reason: pending material disclosure review. 2 days later, the Virginia Department of Transportation announced a comprehensive audit of all Atlantic infrastructure contracts. A week after that, the SEC opened a formal investigation into our financial reporting practices. Andrew resigned to pursue other opportunities, which in corporate speak means before the FBI showed up with handcuffs. Jonathan Hayes, the eager young MBA who'd been so excited to join our dynamic team, requested a transfer to our Denver office. Last I heard, he was doing environmental impact assessments for highway rest stops. Honest work, and probably a lot less stressful than explaining missing millions to federal investigators. As for me, I'm doing just fine. The Virginia Attorney General's office hired me as a consultant to help them understand municipal construction financing. Turns out there's good money in telling the truth about how infrastructure projects actually work. Who knew? Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself, no embellishment needed, no dramatic confrontation required, just facts delivered at exactly the right moment. In corporate America, loyalty flows upward until it doesn't, and the day they decide you're expendable is the day they should have made sure you actually were.